Rescue the Fosters is about changing the foster system. We want to ensure every child has a safe environment to grow and become healthy, successful adults.
Additionally, when I was in the foster care system, I had to defend for myself. Rescue the Foster is here to empower the youth aging out of the system and offer resources to ensure they are not dependent on the government.
What we observed was that children become institutionalized and end up in prison and providing the government with more funds.
Rescue the Foster will provide coaching, resume writing, interview skills, professional attire for interviews, budgeting, applying for college, and obtaining housing.
We want these youth to live the most freeing, successful life possible.
It is their right and our responsibility to ensure that our future kids and grandchildren can live happy lives.
Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord.
Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future.
Good evening and welcome to Rescue the Fosters. I am Gino, your host, and as always, the co-founders and co-hosts of Rescue the Fosters, Miss Sylvia Beachy and Miss KK Emmett. Ladies, how are you this evening?
Good, Gino. It's been a while. It's good to see
Yes, a little bit rusty.
you. Yeah.
KK, how are you?
I'm doing good, just adjusting to my new schedule in life.
Aren't we always adjusting to new schedules? I think that's just part of life, unfortunately. Good to see both of you. And tonight we have returning guests, Christopher Burns from Burns Legal Services. Christopher was representing Chris Stevens in his case back just before summer. Chris, how are you? I think you're muted, Chris.
Good. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming back. And we also have Chris Stevens' girlfriend, Nicole. Nicole, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Hanging in there.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I think this is going to be great because we're going to get a new perspective. Obviously, you know Chris very well. And Christopher knows the legal side of what happened to Christopher.
Nope. He had to call back.
Yeah, I figured.
Okay.
And we also have Chris Stevens on the phone from the county jail in Massachusetts. So we're going to have some technical issues. I can already say that. So just to warn you that Nicole's going to have to do some translating for Chris on his phone because we just can't get crystal clear audio. So we'll just make do with what we have. But we wanted to give an update on what's going on. We did do a documentary, gosh, it's almost been a year now, of Forgotten Father, A Stolen Life. And that story tells the narrative of what the Massachusetts DFACS department did, Division of Children and Families did to, actually it's called, what's it called in Massachusetts? I always mix them up.
Division. No, wait. It's the Department of Child and Family Services.
Yes.
I think it's
Yeah.
DCF instead
Same
of
thing.
DFCF. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to call them CPS. That makes it much easier. These people would not allow Chris to have his daughter that was at the time very young, under 1 year old. Now she's almost 7 years old, and all they required in the beginning was a DNA test. That's all it should have took. And Chris would have had his daughter. She would have lived comfortably under his roof, where Chris was making a very good living, had a very successful business, and they stole his child from him. And they've terrorized him ever since. And now he is serving time due to what they've done to him in this corrupt system that we call justice, apparently, in this nation. So I thought it'd be a good idea to have everybody back on. Let's discuss this. Let's discuss the actual case, what happened there as much as we can, and where we think this thing's going. So, Christopher, I want to start with you. You were obviously representing Chris in court. I watched 3 days of the trial. I know Sylvia and KK also did. Nicole was there. And I got to say, day one, I was very encouraged. I was kind of sitting back going, okay, I think this is going to be, I could see this going the right direction. I could see fairness here. It sounded like the judge was laying out the law by the books. He was reading it verbatim. He made it very clear that that's what the jury needed to understand. They can't just convict a person because of the way they look or the way they act or because they like them or don't like them. It was supposed to be based on the law. But by the second day, I would say halfway through, I was getting a really bad feeling in my stomach. And there was things that the judge said or didn't say that was really irritating to me as just a viewer looking in from the outside. And I know you were in the courtroom, you were feeling it firsthand. And this is nothing, I got to be clear on this. We're not slandering this particular judge. I don't know if we should mention his name or not. That's up to you guys. Um, I think he's retired now, actually. But I will say it did not feel very fair by day 3. And I know the jury made their decision based on the evidence, and I'm using that in the imaginary quotes here. But there was a lot of exculpatory evidence that was not allowed to be submitted. And I'd really like to kind of focus on that to start, just so the audience understands why Chris is incarcerated right now. So, Christopher, I'm just going to lay it in your lap and let you go.
All right, thank you. So a lot of the case revolved around things that Chris sent to the caseworker. And on her testimony, she was allowed to talk about all these things that she received from him, articles, songs that he had sent, the lyrics in the songs, how these things made her feel. So our theory was, when we get the chance to cross-examine her, let's introduce all the stuff. If you want to talk about them, you can talk about them all day long. But if she's actually afraid of them, let's look at the lyrics. Let's listen to the actual song. Let's see the articles that he sent, the news clips about other kids being abused in foster care. These were all things that I think if a rational trier of fact had looked at, they would have said, I would have had the same concerns if my kid was in foster care. But the judge wouldn't let us introduce any of the stuff. So the actual songs, the actual articles, you know, the text in its entirety, so you could put some context in it, he determined was not relevant, and that the jury didn't need to see it in its original format. So she was allowed to testify to what it made her feel like, but when it came to actually showing what she actually received, he shut that down. So we weren't able to show any of those, not play the songs. The jury didn't hear anything, didn't see the lyrics. And there was some doctored photos that we wanted to go into. He wouldn't. We filed a motion to dismiss based on that. He wouldn't let us go into that. There was a security guard at one of the hearings, one of his visits rather, that we caught in a contradiction, and he had recorded the visit. So we wanted to play the visit for the jury, and the judge wouldn't allow us to play the visit in its entirety, to demonstrate that the security guard was not being forthcoming. He testified at trial. So we got shut down on a lot of fronts that the other side was allowed to go into. It's the sort of short version of the story.
So what do you think, in your expert opinion, is the reason they would not allow some of this evidence?
So I'm not really sure, because you have to get into the mind of the judge, and that's, sometimes that's a scary place to be. But I don't think they wanted to overcomplicate it. They're looking at it from the caseworker's perspective, and she took the stand and said, I was frightened by what he sent me. And that's really all the judge thought the jury needed to hear. Kind of skipped over the how and why, which is the important part for us.
It just seems like, I don't know, the Constitution affords for the accused to present evidence and witnesses to prove their innocence or guilt in some cases. But it just seems like for whatever reason, this guy, I don't, I feel like he was hell bent on not allowing that to be presented. And for me, just as an outsider listening in, this is a very objectionable point of view. This is not subjective. It's not because I know Chris and I like Chris and he's my friend. I was trying to be very objective, like I was part of the jury. And I got to tell you, but like I said, by the second day, I was just feeling like this is horrible. Like everything was slanted towards Chris being guilty from the outset. And I can't, like you said, I can't get in this guy's heart and understand what he was thinking. Um, but it seemed like there was a couple times I felt like the judge should have just said, "Hey guys, come up here. I need to talk to you at the bench," and then he could have got things straightened out and put back on track, so that there was no hearsay, there was no points of interest being cast out that had nothing really to do with the case, but to other than to make Chris look like a bad person. Because I feel like that's what the other side was doing. They were really trying to make him look like just this horrible monster that attended J6, and he's this guy that's starting this revolution in the country, and he's got a big mouth, and he needs to shut up. And all it was this nonsense that had nothing to do with a father that deserved to have his daughter back in well never he never even had her should have had his daughter under his roof, and that should have been the end of it. So it felt like all of this was provoked before it ever went to trial, and then during the trial, it's like they're adding salt in the wound, insult to injury, by not allowing these things to be presented. That would have just shown the jury, you know what? He's not a bad guy. He's a dad that wants his daughter. That's what I felt like was being obstructed by this guy.
Well, I think you're entirely right about that. If you watched you said you watched 2 or 3 days of it, or maybe you watched all of it. I think there were 4 or 5 days of trial, but you probably noticed periodically the judge would call us up for a sidebar where there's a conversation among the attorneys and the judge about what's going on. It's not on the record. It's not recorded. But most of those were the judge telling us, "You're going somewhere where I'm not going to allow you to go." Like he didn't want to hear anything about the underlying child protection case. Didn't want to relitigate anything in that. So he was just focused strictly on the criminal charges, and it didn't matter how interwoven the criminal charges were with the child protection case. He just didn't want to hear that child protection case at all.
And that's the part that's so frustrating because they're intertwined. Like, I don't know how you can separate them. The whole reason Chris was accused of these crimes was because all he wanted was to have his daughter back. That's what was so frustrating as an outsider watching, because I'm just like, my gosh, like if the jury doesn't know that, if they don't know other than, Michelle making these wild claims that he's, stalking her and sending these terrible emails and threatening her life and all these things, and they don't understand the context behind it. I mean, anybody could slant a case without proof, without evidence being presented, and make it look like that person's guilty. I mean, that could happen in any case, correct?
Right, exactly. So without the proper context, I mean, it's easy to make it look like somebody's a wingnut or a danger to themselves or everybody else. You don't have the right context. If you don't understand why he's sending these to her, you're not going to get the right decision at the end, and that's really the frustrating part about the whole trial.
I mean, in your experience, Chris, have you ever seen that before, where they were not allowed to support their claims, that the defendant wasn't allowed to support his claims?
It's probably one of the more egregious cases that I've been a part of. When Chris was testifying, one of the sidebars was the judge telling me he's not listening to the questions. He's kind of going rogue, so we're going to shut it down, and he's not going to be able to testify if you
Chris
don't get
said
him
to
under
bring
control.
up the Brady violation
What's
that
that?
he wanted. Chris said he wanted to bring up the Brady violation. He thinks that would help.
On appeal?
Yes.
Yeah, there'll be a number of issues on appeal.
Well, no,
The court
he
would
wants
let
us. He wanted to talk about the Brady violation, is what he just said.
Okay. So there were several things that the court didn't let us go into, which will be on appeal, including the video that he wanted to play from the visit where the security guard contradicted himself. There was tampered evidence that was presented to the grand jury. The court didn't let us go into that. There was a request to dismiss the case based on, or some of the charges, based on his First Amendment right to record state employees in the course of their duties. We brought that up. We had an entire hearing on that. Hearing to dismiss those charges was in front of a different judge who presided over the trial. We got to the trial and I reminded the judge at the time we were talking about the jury instructions, we had a prior hearing all about the First Amendment allowing Chris to record state employees. The judge who presided over the trial had no idea what I was talking about, had never heard that in the context of the First Amendment right, and made no provision to give those instructions to the jury. So there were just huge parts of the trial that were not presented to the jury. I think that First Amendment is one of the bigger mistakes that the trial court made in this one.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to read what the Brady violation is for those that don't know. Brady violation refers to a breach of the constitutional duty of prosecutors in the United States to disclose material evidence that is favorable to the accused in a criminal case. This obligation stems from the landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision in Brady v. Maryland in 1963, which ruled that suppressing such evidence violates the defendant's right to due process under the 14th Amendment. The term Brady has since become synonymous with the requirements for transparency in criminal prosecutions. I mean, that's pretty much what happened. I mean, that's exactly what happened.
Right. So in lay terms, the prosecutor has to give you everything, not just the stuff that helps their side, but if there's exculpatory evidence, he's got to disclose all of it, even if it helps the defense. In this case, not only was that not given to us, at the grand jury was presented with a doctored photograph, because the whole narrative was Chris is dangerous. He was held without bail for a while in this case, I think on a couple different occasions. And the whole narrative was the prosecutor trying to convince the judge he's a danger, like, right, he's a member of the Proud Boys, all this other stuff. This is the undoctored photo that you're looking at right here. This is not what was presented to the grand jury or what was given to me in discovery when I came on and they had to give me their case file. So what I got and what was presented to the grand jury, if you can imagine looking at that photo, they cropped it so that the guy in the yellow hat standing over Chris's shoulder by the red light, he's removed from the photograph because they had to take him out, because this photo in its current state that you're looking at doesn't match the narrative that Chris is a white supremacist. So they had to go in and doctor the photo to remove any minorities when they presented it to the grand jury. So the actual photo, which they took off his Facebook page, was doctored to match a narrative that they knew was not accurate, and the court wouldn't let us go into that at the trial.
Which seems pretty important when you're being called a racist.
Right, he's a white supremacist, he's a danger to society, he's a member of the Proud Boys, and all the threats and everything that they're known for. They want to impugn him. But when it comes down to presenting some actual evidence that backs up what they're trying to say, they've got to manufacture it. And the jury didn't know that.
It does, again, as an outsider looking in, it did seem as though because of the Proud Boy association and this diehard patriot, loves his country, wants corruption overturned, it did seem like right from the jump, they must have had something in their minds, especially between the prosecutor and, I don't know, are we allowed to say his name? Probably.
Yeah, right. That's
Okay,
fine.
Gag,
Public
Gag,
Oh
record
yeah,
was.
we can definitely say his name,
yeah,
Steve Gagney.
yeah,
Oh,
oh, yeah, yeah. And
I
you know,
mean, the
we've
man
talked.
should actually earn an award for I mean, he can tell a lavish story if you've ever heard one in your life. I mean, the stories that he was saying about Chris was quite lavish, and no evidence, just hearsay, was allowed to say whatever he wanted to for 4 or 5 days straight. It was very nauseous to hear him talk. I couldn't imagine being Chris in that courtroom listening to all of the lies that was spewed about him with not being able to say anything, not being able to rebuttal anything, able to give any evidence. And then when he gets on the stand, the judge is like they're just making him look worse and worse because they won't allow any of the evidence in. It was just, oh, so nauseous, so nauseating.
it was very one-sided, I felt.
Well, it just seems like this Gagney guy had it out from the get-go. I mean, there's no love lost, that's for sure, between them. I know Chris doesn't go to bed thinking at night, oh, this guy's such a wonderful person. But at the same time, this guy, he's a DA. Let's face it, these DAs, they have a record. Like, I mean, they literally keep track of wins and losses. And
Right.
you know, he did have an incident. I think it was in 2010, where he said something about the cops. I think, if I remember correctly, and we put it in the documentary. I can't remember what it was, but so this guy has this reputation of maybe painting a picture that's not necessarily entirely true, and I don't know. I just feel like when I was listening to him, just like Sylvia said, it was very nauseating. I was just like, this is a guy I wouldn't even want to go have a beer with. Um, like I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. And that's my own personal opinion. That's no one else's on here. So if you're watching, Mr. Gagney, that's me, no one else. But I will say,
Me too.
you would think in the court, you should be able to go in and get a fair trial. You should be able to present the evidence. You should be able to bring witnesses forward. And that was not afforded to Chris for the most part. That would have exculpated him from all of these charges. I mean, Christopher, what was I remember when they came in, they read the verdict. Was it five charges?
Yeah, five charges. One of them was a not guilty. There were 4 convictions, but one of the 4 was a lesser included charge of another conviction. So there ended up being, that one got thrown out. There ended up being 3 of the 5 convictions.
I remember it was hard to hear because we were listening on the Zoom call, but it was kind of breaking up when they were reading the charges. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like I still at that point I was dumbfounded because I really thought, okay, maybe they'll get him on one, something minor or whatever. But it they went full bore, and it was like they were thrilled about it. Like you could feel it. I could literally feel it through the screen that there was happiness in that courtroom. And I don't know. It gets me. I even talking about it, I get it makes me very sad, to be honest, more than angry, because it just shows that anybody can be accused of something and have good intentions. He was trying to get his daughter and then end up as a criminal, and they're raiding your home, they're stealing stuff from you, they're trying to take your guns away or your Second Amendment right. Like, I mean, doing crazy stuff. For what reason? Like it's insane to think about.
Right. So, and I think you know the backstory. Chris filed a suit against them and got one judge recused. This is all before I came on board, but the backstory is one where the prosecutor and the court, I think, took it personally that Chris tried to remove them, tried to sue them in a civil case. There were a lot more circumstances behind them taking this personally than your average case.
Yeah, it seemed like a chip on their shoulder. It was definitely more personal. That's
Yeah,
exactly what
there
it
was
felt like.
definitely a personal case for them. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how does it get rectified? How do we, like, not only in Chris's case, especially in his, but like when you have when everybody's in on it, they're in on the game, and they're it's I mean, I don't know. It looks like they were framing them, setting them up. How in the world do we as a people, that we the people, fight that and bring justice to the court system again? Is that day ever going to come?
Well, I hope so. I hope it comes, and I hope we're here to see it. But I think there's got to be some sort of oversight and some sort of accountability for the courts. Like right now, we have judges that just get appointed, and they're there for, until they hit whatever mandatory retirement age the state has, and then they'll. In where I am in New Hampshire, the judge hits a mandatory retirement age, and they're not required to retire. They just give them a different name. They're a judicial master, or they're a referee, where they still hear cases and a judge countersigns the recommendations they made. But here, even when you hit the mandatory retirement age, they'll find you a job and you essentially can work as long as you want. They just give you a different title. But there's no way to remove anybody. Especially in cases like in the family court, where there's very little chance that you're going to get an appeal heard in the family court. Here in New Hampshire, we're not big enough to have an intermediate level of appellate overview. So family court here goes straight to the New Hampshire Supreme Court. There's nothing in between. And the odds of the New Hampshire Supreme Court taking some family dispute are pretty slim. Unless it's a new statute that needs to be interpreted for everybody to apply. Otherwise, you're going to get a form letter saying, we're going to trust the family court. And that's what you're stuck with.
That's terrifying. As a parent, that's
Right.
terrifying.
Right. And then you factor into the equation, family courts, the technical rules of evidence don't apply. So hearsay within hearsay with hearsay gets in. People go into court and say, my cousin knows somebody who has a friend who once knew somebody else who said, you're a terrible parent. And that constitutes evidence in the family court, because hearsay is admissible. So it's the Wild West, and there's no oversight. So good luck protecting your parenting rights in that environment.
Yeah. So, one of the, sorry, Nicole, were you going to say something? Okay. One of the things, one of the main points of the trial was these emails that Chris sent her, right? Like, oh, they were so threatening, and he was saying that we're coming for all of you. We're going to take you all down. You're corrupt judges, right? You're corrupt politicians. And yet there was a follow-up email to that was not allowed to be presented, that would have cleared up exactly what Chris meant by the first email, or the first couple emails. And I believe it's this one right here. It's pretty straightforward. It says, so I figured I'd explain. This is kind of fun. I can hear Chris saying this because of his sarcasm, but so I figured I'd explain, since you are slow. The video I sent of Judge Jackson being questioned by a congressman about giving extremely light sentence to a man that raped an 8-year-old 3 months. Raped an 8-year-old 3 months she gave him for raping a child. I recommend sentence is 10 years. Recommended sentence is 10 years. This is showing you that even judges are now being questioned for their very questionable decisions. We are coming for you means that you too will be questioned very soon. The impunity you think you hide behind will not help you. All corruption is coming out into the light. Your organization especially. I hope this clears my statement up for you. That was sent on March 31st, 2022. So that's within days of the original email that she was so terrified that Chris was going to show up at her house, where, by the way, he had no idea where she lived. All he was doing was going to his visits, and sometimes she was there, sometimes she wasn't. She was always late. Late on text messages, calls. And yet Chris isn't supposed to be mad about that. He's not supposed to be upset that the very limited time that the state affords him to see his daughter was being stolen because this woman, I don't know, doesn't have a watch. I don't, or a calendar.
They also used to cancel visitations on him as well. Like he would set up a time And then they would be like, "Oh, you're not getting your visit today." So they did a lot of that too.
Absolutely. Sylvia, you want to chime in on that? Because you were
Well, I
part
wanted
of
to
it.
chime in because the thing was that she was so terrified. But Christopher, I would like for you to talk about how she did not ask to be taken off the case. She did not put a restraining order against him. She did not tell anyone that she was terrified for her life, other than until she just decided, I'm terrified, and put charges. So she didn't do anything to say, I to show that she was scared, to show that she was afraid. It was just, oh, straight, like bam, and put charges on him, and then put all of, like, stalking, harassment, intimidation, like all of these things. When if she was really scared, she would have asked him to stop sending the emails, because Chris even said, "Can I send this email to you?" And she said, "Yes, send it." So she even gave him permission to send it. But she's sitting on the stand crying over a Jay-Z song that says, uh, guilty until proven innocent, which, by the way, I mean, like, insanity, that we're even having to go there. But I would like for you to talk about that, because I think you even asked her that in some of the questioning.
Right, yeah, she didn't do any of that, didn't complain to her boss. I think at the end, she had a meeting with her boss. And I'm trying to recall the fact pattern here, but I think at some point her boss finds out about it, and there's a meeting between her and her boss, where her boss, if she asked her boss to, at the 11th hour, she may have asked her boss to take her off the case. But her boss said no. I mean, her boss didn't even think these were credible threats. And if she did make the request, it was nowhere near the beginning of the case. She kept interacting with him, kept exchanging emails with him, kept communicating with him, and then after the fact decided, well, I'm afraid of this guy, so I'm going to call my friend over at the prosecutor's office and see what we can do to get rid of this guy. This is really what happens when you annoy enough people. That's part of the system. They'll come after you, and they'll find a way to get you, and that's what happened to Chris.
Yeah, and she even said the other thing that I found was that for the first day, she literally her testimony started out with how great Chris was. Like, I was expecting her to get up there and say he was arrogant, he was rude, I couldn't deal with him. But no, for a day straight, she talked about how great Chris was, how he followed everything, how for a year and a half he did everything that she asked of him. She even told a story about how when she went to his house and there was an area that needed to be cleaned up, and she asked him to clean it up, and he said, "Okay, come back tomorrow and it'll be cleaned up." She goes back the next day and it's cleaned up. She said she did not want to adopt his child out, that there was no reason to adopt his child out. But she could not say, she just said that, oh, they just decided that they were going to put the child up for adoption. And it wasn't until she told Chris that she was changing from reunification to adoption that his attitude changed. Are you freaking kidding me? And he's the crazy one? Like, where in the world, who gives these people a right to say, "Oh, we're not gonna reunite"? She literally said he followed every step, he did everything that he said. This is on the transcripts, and
Yeah,
she
and
is not held accountable at all.
yeah, if you're out there and you're new to this story and you're watching, I did put the documentary we made in the description box below on Rumble and Foxhole, and also on YouTube. So if you guys want to watch it, it's only a half hour long, but that gives you Chris's story. It's actually Chris narrating the entire story. It was a phone call that he made uh, to report this woman, that not only her but others, that were not doing their job, and he thought he was going to get it resolved doing it the right way. Chris went about this. I want to make this very clear. Chris went about this legally. He followed every direction that was given to him to the T. And yet, at the end of the day, his daughter is adopted out at this point. Chris does not have his daughter, 7 years old. And they went after him criminally, and now he's in prison because of criminal charges, because supposedly he was stalking this woman and some other supposed threats that he made against the caseworker that had his daughter. And Sylvia, that's such a great point, that she was kind of like saying, yeah, it was very cordial. Our relationship was very good. Chris said that. Chris even said, yeah, at the beginning, everything seemed fine. It seemed like, hey, tell me what to do, I'll do it. He got the apartment ready. It was ready for a baby. He had all these things that they told me needed to do. And he did it literally within 24 hours most of the time. But yet he's not supposed to be mad and then send her some scary emails. And he's supposed to just go to sleep at night and say, okay, oh, well, I guess my daughter's going to live somewhere else, not under my roof. Like, who would do that? No parent would do that. If you're a good parent, a parent that loves your children, you would never do that. You will fight until your last breath. And Chris did it legally. He did it. Yes, he's boisterous. That's Chris's personality. But being boisterous, does that make you a criminal? Like, give me a break. Like this,
Yeah,
it's insanity.
not only that, Gino, but she said, I felt like he was trying to educate me. She didn't say threaten me. She said educate me. And because he was sending her information on the foster care system, how children were being abused in the system, his daughter was being placed up for adoption. And she even said on the stand, I felt like he was trying to educate me. And that's exactly what he was doing. And Chris got up there and said, yeah, I was trying to get her to flip on her boss, because they literally switched from reunification to adoption with no reason. There's no child abuse charges. There's no neglect. None of his charges stem from child abuse or neglect. And that's the thing that people don't understand, that when a child is taken from a parent, they assume it's child abuse and neglect. All of his charges are criminal for harassment and stalking because he did not want to give up his child to adoption. That's insane.
The other part of this too is that, remember, Christopher had a previous girlfriend with children that was taken by DCF, and the children ended up getting released back into the home due to Chris being able to provide for these kids, and he made a good home. The DCF found him as a good person, you know?
Right.
So
He was a stable home. That same office too, right? It was the same office that
yeah.
found him stable for other children to take care of
And
them.
his nephew is adopted. His sister was able to adopt. So when his family, Donna and his sister, were trying to get his daughter, they already had a foster kid that they adopted. And the state of Massachusetts wouldn't let them, take out a lease or whatever. So they ended up saying, what, Donna ended up filing a bunch of paperwork or whatever, and they said that she filed out the wrong paperwork. Well, you're the one that gave her the paperwork, so give her the right one so she can fill it out. And that never happened. They blocked everything, in a sense, I feel like.
Anything that was reasonable or made sense got thrown out the window in this from the very, very beginning. It just, nothing made sense. And even when Chris gets, pulled, Sylvia, you were there when he got pulled over that night, and they were making a mockery of him just to embarrass him, just to put the fear of God in him. I mean, like, it was really bad, the harassment they were doing to him, yet there's no repercussions for that. But Chris supposedly is harassing Michelle with a couple of emails and maybe a couple texts that she was, so terrified of. But as we just read, the follow-up email would have proved Chris's innocence in her claiming that he was sending all these scary things. Chris made it very clear that he was coming with the law, not with guns, not with knives, not with the cavalry behind him. It was with the law. And anybody that's in the Patriot movement, anybody in the Patriot movement understands that. Anybody knows that all of us that have been trying to fight for this country and love this country with all of our heart, we're going after you criminally with the Constitution. And yet they didn't get it. They did not understand that. And then it wasn't allowed in court. So that's the really frustrating part. I'm losing my voice. I'm so mad. So,
I mean, it is.
Nicole, does Chris have anything to say?
You got anything to say, Chris? He says that you guys are telling the story pretty good.
Thanks for the approval, Chris.
Oh. What is that? One more time, Chris. He says he's at workout camp and he's just having tons of fun in jail.
He's going to be
Cute.
jacked. He'll definitely be jacked when he gets out.
Oh my, he is already
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, you got to do something. You might as well make it worth your time. You know, I know he said he's attending church and some Bible studies and stuff too, so that's good.
yeah.
The whole thing is,
you
the whole
know.
point of this is an innocent man is behind bars just for the fact that he wanted his daughter to be in his home. Like, that is, if you really think that through, that's what this is about. That's why we titled, or I titled the documentary Forgotten Father. That's the exact reason why. He literally, to be honest, I think it's intentionally forgotten, but he's just forgotten. Like, oh, well, it's just another dad that won't get his daughter. And
But it's not
these are
even
the,
just that, because what they did is they took a man that was a provider as well.
right.
Like, we're all as a family suffering out here by him being in there. You know, mom's having a hard time being able to keep the ship going. The same with his other daughter, Genesis, that is not with us tonight, sadly, but you know, she's struggling to pay bills and she wants things in her life because she's at an age now where he's missing a bunch of things going on in her life because he is incarcerated, you know, not to mention he's taken from me, and I'm struggling and overwhelmed with all this because I need him out here to help me with things. It's not just financially, you know,
Well, that's such a
it should
good
have
point.
never happened.
That's a really good point, Nicole, because if he was a good enough father to raise his now 22-year-old daughter, or 21, I think, why wasn't he fit to raise the other daughter when he had the financial needs met? He had an apartment that was going to be perfect for the baby to be raised in. He had family that was willing to help raise her. Like, there was all these
I
good
mean,
things in the pro column, but yet they turned them into negatives for some reason.
well,
And
not
I
only that, but honestly, when I met Chris, I met him a year after he's already been in this. We've been together since 2019. And when I found him, I found honestly a broken man. I remember when he had the crib in the bedroom and he was getting it right. Like, he was like a mother nesting in a sense. I remember him folding this baby blanket over the crib and everything. Like, I could tell Chris is a very, very strong person. You know, he doesn't show a lot of emotion, but he was hurt. He wanted his child, you know, and I watched this man just go through this. He's calling back in, sorry. Oh, I wish I don't have to listen to these messages anymore. Someday I hope that I can just not have to hear these anymore. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, you only get 20 minutes to talk, and then he's got to call back.
Yes, and it sucks. But yeah, when I met him, I remember there was the crib and he was putting the blanket in and he was preparing to have Adelise come home, but obviously that never happened, you know? So,
Christopher, to me, it seems like they already knew the history with Addie, obviously, because Michelle was the caseworker in this case. So she was bringing these charges against him, saying he's doing all these horrible things, harassing her, stalking her, blah, blah, blah. But, and I don't know, you don't have to answer this question because this is completely speculative. But do you think that Massachusetts and New Hampshire had some kind of collusion going on? And the reason I say that is because I remember when Sylvia arrived there, they went to the police station, right? And they started telling them, "Hey, there's some things going on we don't agree with," right? And they don't like that
That
very
was when
much.
he was swatted.
Yes.
Yeah, you forgot him being swatted.
No, I didn't forget. I know. I'm just trying to kind of make a point here. So they go in to make this claim, and then interestingly enough, after that, all hell breaks loose for Chris. They pull him over that night. They detain him for a minute, let him go. Then they're trying to get his guns. They're making all these wild claims. They bring up a violation from like 20 years ago or whatever it was, 17 years, I think it was. All these things. But I mean, to me, the underlying or the thread that connects it all is that we here at Rescue the Fosters every week we portray stories or tell stories and have families on that give us pretty much the same pattern. Their kids are either taken from them or they never see their kids. And there's an incentivization behind it. There's a lot of money that comes from the federal government through the states, billions of dollars to incentivize
Title IV.
right to take children from good families. So it makes me wonder, like, because the police department was kind of put on blast when they went there, and it's a small city, small department. A lot can happen in a small department with a few people rattling a cage, and then they realize, oh, he's his daughter he has this custody thing going on with his daughter. It seems like both states were communicating with each other, and they're like, how can we get this guy to stop being a problem for all of us? That's what I take from this. That's purely speculative, but I think it's not outrageous to think that. There was definitely communication between them because of the so-called criminal charges. So what's to think that they wouldn't?
Gagney. Chris said it was Gagney, and I can probably, yeah. He was talking with the New Hampshire Brentwood police, and he had definitely an influence on the officers, and they just pretty much carried out his orders.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
and that's what it seems like. And I don't know, Christopher, if you want to comment on that or not, but I mean,
Yeah,
that's what it
so
looks like.
so the impression I'm getting, because I've seen the discovery from the prosecution here in New Hampshire. I don't think New Hampshire's personally involved in this. They just got a call, an anonymous call, that he was holding somebody hostage at gunpoint. That turned out to be a totally fabricated claim. They went there, checked it out. I mean, for the charges that were reported, the New Hampshire police were only there half an hour, maybe. So it was pretty easily checked up on and determined that it was not accurate. And then I'm sure they reported back to Massachusetts, because the source seems to be the prosecution in Massachusetts. And then the next day they come back with this charge of a felon in possession of a firearm, which would be a crime. And then Gagney had to send them some sort of evidence that he actually was a felon, because in New Hampshire, he has no record. He's not a felon here. So I think New Hampshire just reporting back, listen, you're telling us he's a felon. We have no evidence of that. There's not much we can do without it. And then Gagney says, okay, let me see what I can find, sends it to them, and then they say, okay, well, we'll go out and arrest him for that. But even after he's arrested for that, he's got a bail hearing here in New Hampshire where he's released on PR. New Hampshire knew everything that was going on. They release him on PR, and then Massachusetts holds him without bail under the same circumstances. So you've got sort of one state that's not personally involved because nobody got sued or recused here. But Massachusetts takes a complete same fact pattern, same circumstances. Different state takes a completely different approach where he's not even going to qualify for bail, or we're just going to lock him up and wait months and see what we can do with him, because they're personally involved down there.
Right. And now they're dragging their feet on time served. I mean, Chris has I think he told me 156 days. I could be wrong on the number, but
how many days, Chris? 156.
Yeah, 156 days of time served, and they have not applied it yet. And that's Chris has brought this up for at least a couple months now, when he was made aware of this, and that's deterring or preventing him from doing some things in jail that could also get more time taken off because there's programs that are provided for inmates, certain inmates, and he's not allowed to do them until that is presented. And again, it's this intentionality behind it. Like this is not hard. I know before we started, we were talking about how they already have the numbers. The court knows what it is. Like this is easy. Hand over the papers and say, "Yep, that's 156 days," and apply it. Like that takes what, 5 minutes for a secretary to type it into the computer. Like, give me a break.
Right, and this is not the first time it's come up. At the sentencing hearing, we had a conversation about him getting credit for time served. He's entitled to that by operation of law. The judge acknowledged that before he was sentenced, and nothing was ever reported to give him a credit for that time.
Chris said that one of his caseworkers that he's working with on this time served, she has never seen time served held like this before. That's
No,
odd.
usually it's automatic. They would
Right.
have an accounting done, and he would automatically get credit for the time served. It's never been a problem before.
Yeah, that's what this person told him. And I don't know. It's
And
frustrating.
Christopher, there was correct me if I'm wrong, and this is it's been a few months now, but wasn't there witnesses that you were going to bring in, and then they said, "Sorry, you can't have them"? And was it one or two witnesses, or am I thinking of something else?
No, it was Mel was one.
Oh, Mel, that's right.
And then they
Mel
never
Jordan.
let,
Yes.
yep. And then they never let Donna or Genesis testify
Right.
either.
They denied me
But
too.
they denied Sylvia. Yeah.
Right, so particularly Sylvia and Mel, they were on the witness list, and the whole point of having them be on the witness list was in case our evidence got denied. The judge wouldn't let us introduce that email where he explained, listen, when I say I'm coming after you, I mean with a suit. So we couldn't introduce that because the judge said you can't produce your own exhibits, essentially. So in other words, I can't go a couple days later after the fact and write up an email explaining away what could be considered criminal. It's like I'm generating my own alibi, essentially, which I get what the judge is saying, but in my opinion, and this is my response to him, this is a sidebar. That's really not an admissibility issue. That's a credibility issue. It should still come in, and the jury should give it whatever weight they think it deserves. And if the jury thinks he's completely making this up, then they won't give it any weight. But they should at least get an opportunity to see it and give it the weight they think it deserves, because he reached out and tried to explain what he meant. And then Mel and Sylvia were our backup witnesses in case the court didn't let the exhibits in that we wanted to get in. They were going to testify. They had discussed the case with him, and going after you guys was a reference to filing the case, which he had discussed numerous times with Mel and Sylvia. And I think they may have even helped him write parts of the case. So we had planned to cover this on a couple different fronts, and we couldn't call the witnesses or get the exhibits in. We were shut down on both fronts.
And that's just, it's almost unbelievable that you're not allowed to have witnesses when you're being accused of all these crimes.
I just wanted to say that I believe they said I was just an advocate that said that they wanted to harm him. And that was wasn't it something like that, Christopher? Like that was the reason for me not being able to testify, because the whole reason I was going to testify was that Chris had contacted Rescue the Fosters for help, because he was trying to fight these well, he was trying to sue them for what they had done to him and get
Right.
accountability.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
the judge was of the opinion that Mel and Silvio would not provide any probative value to any of the elements in the case or any of the charges against Chris, so he didn't let them testify.
And how that's so asinine when you really think about it going backwards. Because again, like I've said, the origin of Chris's story is him trying to get his daughter back. And if he'd had his daughter in his custody like he should have after the DNA test, none of this stuff that happened after would have happened.
Right.
It's because of that. It's because he kept pursuing the plan they laid out before him. Do this, do this. He kept checking a box, checking another box, checking another one. They were provoking him. I mean, and to not allow advocates that understand how this works in the system, when his daughter becomes a ward of the state, for crying out loud, and he's just trying to have her as his back under his own roof, then that's really frustrating for a father as he's doing step 1, step 2, step 3, and doing it just like they said. And he's got advocates saying, hey, you're doing the right thing. Keep doing this. Don't do that. They should be able to come on the stand at some point and say, listen, Michelle's making these wild claims against him that he stalked and harassed, but we're his advocate and he's followed everything to the letter. And this is why he's frustrated. And this is why he sent these emails to Michelle telling her, we're coming after you guys because you're all corrupt and you're not allowing the biological parents to have their rights. And that's the part that's so frustrating. And it seems like the judge should know that. It doesn't.
Chris says it's deprivation under the color
Deprivation.
of right.
That's right.
Yes.
Color of law. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. That's in the documentary. We definitely go over that. That's really the crux of it for me. Like, I just feel like it's such an easy story and it should have had a very simple outcome. And just like all these other stories we cover, it's not simple because it's incentivized. They're making a whole bunch of money.
Right.
That's what needs to be exposed.
Like, so there were certain things that didn't surprise me. Like, going into it, I know the prosecution is going to paint him in the worst light possible. They're going to try to keep out as many witnesses and exhibits of ours as they possibly can. And there's certain things we know they're going to do going into it. So that didn't surprise me. But what did surprise me is when the jury came back with a guilty verdict, and the judge said, "What are we going to do in terms of sentencing?" I have never seen, unless it's like a murder case or something like that, where the defendant who was just convicted by a jury gets put in cuffs and taken away the moment the jury comes back. Every other time we schedule the sentencing hearing, it's 2 or 3 weeks down the road. He has an opportunity to go home, get his affairs in order, and salvage a job if he can, make arrangements for every other area of his life that he can take care of. Not here. The jury came back and the prosecution said, we want him taken away today, right now. Despite the fact that he had on an ankle monitor, they knew exactly where he was 24 hours a day. He didn't even live in Massachusetts. She didn't live in Massachusetts either. She was from somewhere in Vermont. Who's, the caseworker is supposedly afraid of him. And he had it on for almost 2 years without incident. And despite the fact that all of that lended itself to coming back for a sentencing hearing, the judge said, "You're going now," which was the most surprising thing to me in the case. When the verdict came back, they just took him away in cuffs.
That was very surprising.
I'm sorry.
And the ankle monitor thing too, that whole thing was such a sham from the beginning.
Yeah.
3 years. And it took the 3 years on that bracelet. And it's took in his life. It took away from me. It took away from us. I couldn't even I remember I went to water country up here and I couldn't even take Chris with me because he's on that ankle bracelet and he can't even get it wet. It prevented us from doing things together as a family with his kids, his mom. Like, it sucks. It sucks. This whole thing has sucked. It took so much away, not just from Chris, but from his family as well. We've put so much time and effort and just it's very overwhelming, honestly, at the end of the day. And it sucks. It does. You know, I keep thinking and replaying the morning that when I last saw him before he went to trial and he got taken away. You know, it was very early in the morning and I wish I got to hold him and hug him a little bit longer before he got taken away. I didn't know he wasn't going to come home that day. I know, just, I'm sorry. This whole thing just
No,
really upsets me.
yeah. Well, you know,
I
not
just,
being able to have
I
his
want
daughter,
him home.
not being able to have Genesis on the stand, his daughter, and his mom, the two people that know him best. That to me was devastating because Genesis, his 21-year-old daughter, who's very articulate, by the way, would have
Well,
sat up there and
she did testify.
she did testify. I'm
for
sorry. That's right.
children.
That's right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it was his mom that didn't.
But I don't think Genesis had enough time to give the entire story. I felt like she was even being like, because remember, she was getting very frustrated. She was trying to say things and then they would cut her off. They wouldn't let her finish. Stick to the question. I remember that. It, and then his mom, Donna, not being able to testify. Like, why would they not allow his mother, who's known him his entire life, obviously, be able to testify for him? Unless you're trying to hide something from a jury because they know juries can be swayed by emotions. I mean, that's the only thing I can think that makes sense from their side. And isn't that against the law? Like, it just, like, why would the judge not allow his mom to testify?
So
Makes
the
sense.
the legal theory is she doesn't have any relevant information to the criminal charges. So,
But what about his character? Like, vouching for his character?
right, I think that's probably just, in my opinion, the character issue and putting elements of the case in the proper context would be enough to justify calling her as a witness. But, you know, oftentimes the judge didn't see it the way we saw it.
Yeah. I forgot Genesis was under. Yeah, she was pretty fiery too. I remember now. She was good. I just felt like they were letting her say everything she needed to say. Just like they didn't let Chris say when Chris got on the stand. You know, I know he was anxious to get on there because he had been waiting a long time to get on there and tell his story. So, and then the judge kept interrupting him. Hey, you're not answering the question directly. You're going too far with your statements, you know, and he was saying all these things, but it's like, of course he's going to talk more than he is supposed to, you know, according to the judge's rules in that courtroom. But he hadn't been able to talk to anybody forever. No one would listen to the guy, and I feel like they still didn't listen to him. It just they tried to make him look like some lunatic, you know, from J6, Proud Boy. That's just this flag waving guy that's causing problems. That was like their whole narrative.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, does Chris have anything else to say, Nicole?
He'll be calling back hopefully in a oh, there he is. Hold on a second.
Sylvia, is there anything else? Oh, go ahead. What'd you say, KK?
I said I just remember those days having to talk to your ex in jail and stuff like that. So I remember those days.
It's not easy. I
It's
mean,
not.
I could see why a lot of women end up leaving their guys in jail. I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
I do this every day, at least 10 times a day, if not more. I mean, I go and visit him. Our visits are a lot better now. We don't look at each other through glass or talk to each other through this bird box speaker. I'm able to at least have a contact visit with him. They have vending machines there. I'm able to purchase a little meal for him to microwave, and we're able to have at least food, but we still can't like touch each other, hold hands or anything. I only get 2 hugs, one when he comes in and one when he leaves, and that's it, you know? I talk to him all the time on the phone. I read out loud to him, pass time by too, because we talk every day. So you run out of things to say eventually, and then you got this awkward silence, you know? So I try to find books and stuff to read to him. I read him the Bible. He reads the Bible back to me, you know? I mean, I just need him home. I miss
Yeah.
having him home so much. Really does, but I'm sorry. I don't
You know,
get to talk about it very
if someone
often.
really perpetrated a crime, they need to serve the time for sure. But it's when someone's innocent, and especially like I said, the origin is just because he wanted his daughter. Like that's where it gets really frustrating. And you know, as much as we know Chris's story, and we've had him on several times, and he's been able to tell it himself, and we did the documentary. We've had several
I
other
wish you
families that are going through the same things right now. Maybe I can only think of two that we've interviewed that actually had to go do jail time, and they were innocent too. And it's and you think like, my gosh, this actually happens in America, and people are okay with that. That's the part that's
it's
really really frustrating. Like how did he like how does a guy like Steve Gagne go to sleep at night? I don't understand that. You're locking people up that didn't he know there's no way he doesn't know that Chris didn't commit crimes. There's no way. He just had a chip on his shoulder and didn't like him. That's my opinion. Again, this is no one else's opinion on here. From what I observed, it looks like this guy had a chip and didn't like Chris, and we're gonna find a way to put him behind bars. And he painted Michelle like she was this wonderful person that was just doing her job, serving the citizens of this great state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth. Like,
he's a
really?
I don't
And
know.
I'm not
That's a
saying
whole thing.
maybe Michelle's a maybe she does her job very well. Maybe she does with
But
other people. But I'll tell you what,
I think
in
this
the,
case just showed that she does not do her job very well.
well, I was gonna finish. Maybe she does this case very well with other people, but I can tell you with Chris's case, she blew it. She blew it time and time again, which makes me very suspicious that she's doing the same thing with other parents. That's
Yeah.
my suspicion. But again, I'm not physically there. I can't know people's hearts. I haven't witnessed anything firsthand other than Chris's case. So that's why I'm affording her that. But
Chris wanted
she,
to point out that she lied on a bunch of affidavits as
uh,
well. She did.
good
She
point.
perjured herself on the stand.
Yes. What can be done, Christopher? What can happen in the future with that, with all the perjury that went on? Not only her, others.
Well, in general, if you can prove that a witness perjured themselves on the stand, you can potentially go back and vacate whatever decision came from that testimony.
But if the damage
But
is
you were
already
able to
done,
prove that, right?
Say that again?
You were able to prove that though with her, with the affidavits that she was lying.
I'd have to go back and look at the affidavits that he's referring to specifically.
I mean,
You said
lying.
that Chris said that one more time. He testified that Chris texted her and threatened her every day. That's what he said. Every single day. I wish you
Right.
guys could hear him. Because he does.
I
He
would,
keeps chiming in as you guys are talking, and I'm trying to work this here.
So this is one of those frustrating areas where somebody says something on the stand that's not accurate. You know it's not accurate. You have the option to try to vacate a conviction, but in order to vacate the conviction, you have to prove not only that it was not accurate, but that the jury relied on that as part of their verdict, which, how do you do that? You're not in there with the jury hearing them deliberate, so you don't know whether or not they relied on the perjured testimony. So it's In theory, you can move to vacate a conviction, but it's a pretty high standard to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, if an affidavit, if someone lies in an affidavit intentionally, how does the law go after that eventually? Like, I mean, if Chris gets out of jail and Chris wants to press charges, like, can he say, here's our evidence, we're submitting this to the court that Michelle Emery lied under oath, that others lied under oath, and I want to go after them criminally? Like, what could happen? Then it would go to a trial, and then that's, I mean, it seems
Well,
pretty easy to prove.
if he wants to move forward criminally, he now has to convince the prosecutor, probably the same prosecutor that went after him, that he now has to go after the caseworker, his buddy. So if you can convince the caseworker, the prosecutor to do that, I'd be pretty amazed at you.
Chris is asking what's going on with the civil lawsuit.
I'm not aware of anything going on with the civil lawsuit. I think was it not dismissed?
Did you hear that, Chris? It's what? I asked. Hold on one second, guys.
So there's no way to get it out of that county or
Well, in theory there is. You would cite a conflict of interest there and then ask that it be moved. But
yeah.
Even if it's moved, you would have to believe that wherever it's moved, that prosecutor is going to be free of any influence of the same office that it came from.
Right.
They all know each other. The prosecutors all know each other.
Yeah, they're all buddies.
Chris wants to know if it's gonna get refiled and you guys are gonna try and get that going again. That's what he wants to know.
Yeah, we can do
He
that.
said yes.
Well,
Gina,
yes.
I just text you. I tried to email it to you. It wouldn't let me email it to you, but this is one of the things that Chris had text Michelle, and when we close, I just want to close it out because they painted him like he was this horrible person, that he was a white supremacist, a Proud Boys, Jay Sitzer, that was not good for society. And honestly, Chris was not just, he was sending her things that was trying to appeal to her heart. Like, you adopted my child out. He was pleading with her. And there's just, I don't know what has happened to humanity. There's just no empathy. There's no morals. There's no values, and everything is inverted. But I was just thinking when we close out, if you can play that. Hey, I can't see it.
Sorry, I was getting it. I loaded it up to upload it to Telegram so we can play that on our way out. Yeah, this is a good video. I don't know. I'm with you, Sylvia. I feel like there is no empathy, no compassion anymore. I feel like it's like make the money and have your big house and your nice car and like who cares what happens to everybody else. You get very pessimistic after doing this for so long because you just see the same things going on. And it doesn't matter what state it in. It's everywhere. It's prevalent. And until that incentivization stops, I don't know a solution. Until states realize, oh, they're cutting off those billions of dollars that we're getting every year. What's going to make them stop? They've got quotas. Sylvia's talked about that extensively. So that's where the problem lies, and hopefully that gets fixed soon. Lots of innocent families are being torn apart because of a wicked system. So, anybody got last words before we shut down for the night?
You got any last words, Chris? No, he's good.
Wow, Chris doesn't have anything to say?
One more time. There was somebody that sent him a letter. I think Sylvia, that
Garth.
you reached out to somebody and
Oh
he
no,
wanted
it's
to say,
Garth. It's a
yeah,
supporter that follows, and
he wanted to say if he's listening, thank you very much. So that was it.
Garth's a good man. Very good man. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for watching over on Rumble, Foxhole, YouTube, and X. We appreciate you, John. Thanks for hosting over on X. Thank you, brother. We always appreciate you there. We're going to watch this video that Chris had sent Michelle Emery, the caseworker in Massachusetts, and we will see you. I'll probably see you tomorrow night. I think I'm going to do a show tomorrow night with Robert. So we'll see you on Insight Live. Everybody have a great night. God bless. Take care.
Hey, someone said you needed a friend today. All right, someone said that you were down, but you were not out. Someone said that I needed to come and speak to you and tell you that you're still in the fight and there's a battle. I'm supposed to come and help you fight, so I wanted to tell you to get up. I want to tell you to stand. Come on, put your gear on. We still have a fight to win. I want to tell you that you're in a battle for your life right now, and I want to tell you I got your back. I have your six, and as long as I'm here, you're not fighting alone. I want you to tell you, come on, walk with me. Even if you got to lean on my shoulder, I'll tell you I got you. I want you to keep firing your weapon. I want you to keep shooting, and I want you to stay in the fight, because I need you, and I won't leave you. I'm gonna be by your side the whole time. I'm gonna be fighting. I'm gonna be throwing lead for you. I'm gonna be fighting with you. I'm gonna be there the whole time, and I ask that you just stay with me. So get up. Get up.
Insecure and left alone to defend for ourselves. We are praying to the Lord for when this nightmare is going to end. How many more sleepless nights? How much more pain and tears do we have to endure? When can I see my family or someone who cares for me? Are we not good enough? Or are we just some test rats that have to follow orders? Are we just worth $1? Or are we actually being taken care of? Our hearts are burning in pain, and tears keep falling from our cheeks. Tired of crying and having our emotions in cycles. Our voices are being empowered by the ones who have more authority than us. However, today is the day it ends. No more feeling ashamed and leaving abandoned. We are standing up tall and raising our voices high. We are a child of God, and our work has just begun. God thinks we are worth enough and worth fighting for. God has our back and no need to fear. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Not one more child is going to be left alone and abandoned. Thank you, Jesus, for all you have done for us, and all glory goes to you. In Jesus' name, amen.